What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hurt Business Podcast. My name is Fair Shirai, and today my guest is Karate Combat Middleweight Champion Ross Turbo Levine. Let's go. How we doing today,
Let's
boss
go.
man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm a big fan, dude. I've been watching a lot of the stuff you do, especially obviously with the cartel. So it's an honor to be on here, man.
That means the world to me to hear, man. I love the guys from the cartel just giving me the chance to talk as you are today,
Mm,
man. This all this is just as a fan just means the world to me. So I appreciate the time first and
my pleasure.
foremost. But you're coming off a huge win, man.
Mm.
Back to back, a rematch for your strap. You defended successful in Miami. Talk me before the fight itself. How was the preparation? How was the lead up? Fight camp?
Yeah, honestly, it was really long. Normally, we would do like 10 weeks, 12 weeks is ideal. But we had been training and hoping to get on a card since October. So it ended up being like 29 weeks of pretty
Wow.
consistent training, consistent training, consistent diet. So everything was like totally dialed in. And, that I don't love doing a camp for that long because, it's, I'm sure, as you know, and talking to all these great fighters, when you are going through a fight camp, there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into it. And the people around you are really the ones that suffer because I love doing it, but it's like my wife has to suffer from that. We miss out on dates, we miss out on going out and having a good time. And, my friends, my family suffer, so it's challenging. But yeah, it was a super long camp. And, I think the results kind of spoke for themselves.
Watching you all week and all the media that Karate Combat was putting out was so fascinating to see how laser focused you were. It was like nothing could even phase you even the slightest. How did you get in that zone? And tell me once you were in it, how that felt.
I think it's just something that I always try and do. I don't really think this was anything special compared to other events. I've been competing for a really long time. I think my full contact career doesn't really do justice of how long I've been in the game, and I think people find that pretty quickly when they start either working out with me or competing against me. Although I've only had 8 professional fights and 11 amateur fights, which is really not a lot considering the world of professional sports. But I've been competing as a sport karate athlete, professionally. There is no amateur and pro, but I was getting paid. So really at the highest level for years, man, like 20
Mhm.
plus years in the game. So I think that natural level of just, all right, it's game time, focus comes into play. And maybe it was a little bit it was a little bit amplified because there was just so much time that went into camp. But yeah, I mean, it feels great once you're in there. I'm just ready to go. It's business as usual, as most of the guys are, and we're there to do a job. So it's all about executing the game plan and putting it together.
Mm. And it was a rematch for you. Was that at all different in preparating for somebody you've already fought before?
No, not really. We although like the media portrayed it as a rematch, but I don't really believe in rematches. Everyone, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you should be getting better from fight to fight to fight. So even though it's the same person, same name, I expected a new version. So we definitely go back and we watch tape and we try to uncover some new details of things that he did differently or did the same since the first time we fought, and just developed a whole brand new game plan, honestly. And if you watch the way I fought him the first time versus the second time, even I had a different game plan, a different approach. So, we have to treat every fight like it's an individual, and that's what we did.
Mm. And this was one of those fights where it resulted a lot like the first one. Another
Mm.
walk off, highlight reel type KO. Uh, was that a credit to all the weeks you talked about that you spent preparing for this one?
Yeah, for sure. I think as it's hard to say because I'm always trying to prepare, and that's something that I always look forward to. But the way my style is and the way I like to walk people down and pressure, there's really two ways to go. If you want to win the fight, you have to confront me face to face, and that's what I love. And when that happens, that gives me the opportunity to land these big shots and create those highlight reel knockouts. Or you can avoid the fight and either willingly take a loss, or just try and win off of points, which I think my style and the scoring criteria in karate combat doesn't really suit. So really, it's hats off to my opponent for standing in there and being willing to exchange. Like, those are the people that I need that are going to challenge me, but also bring out the best in me. So I think it was a combination of, yeah, a ton of training and a ton of time put in with really high level people, and also a willing dance partner that was trying to take my head off. And one of us was going to get slept, and unfortunately for him, it was him, but I'm not going to trade places with him.
Yeah. I hear fighters talk about all the time in preparation where they envisioned a fight turning out a certain way. Did you envision either one of these to turn out the way they did?
Man, not necessarily the way that it happened. And I talk about this all the time. I do a lot of visualization. I do a lot of mental prep. I have a mental performance coach. And the one thing that I couldn't really find, and there's been many times in my career where I'm like, oh, I really think I'm going to land this. Like, perfect example, my Glory debut when I had that like crazy head kick knockout. That was something that we had prepped for weeks and weeks and weeks. There's actually a really cool photo of me shadowboxing in the ring before the event started. And there's a photo of me throwing a left high kick,
Mm.
and the left high kick happened in the exact same spot in the ring as the photo. So there's been times when that mental prep has paid off like exactly 1-to-1. But for this fight, for whatever reason, I had a hard time picturing like a technique. The one thing that I was able to visualize was my opponent kind of breaking down in between rounds and letting him know that I would be able to see him kind of wither away and feel like he was losing control in the fight. And if you go back and watch this fight, in between each round, they zoom in on my corner. And although my corners are talking to me, I'll turn and look at them, but I'm like laser focused on my opponent. And between rounds 2 and 3, I kind of saw him starting to sulk and realized that it wasn't going his way. And round 3, we turned up the gas, and that's where we found the finish.
Mm. You mentioned the mental coach. How important is that for you?
Huge. It's funny because I always thought of myself as someone who had like a really strong mental game. And when I first met Dylan Nadler, he owns a company called Mindlock.
Yeah,
It was one
familiar.
of those things. Yeah, he had talked to me. He just reached out and was like, "Hey man, how much do you think fighting is physical versus mental?" And I think I had said like 70-30, like 70% physical versus 30% mental. And most people think it's either flip flopped or like 50-50. But in any case, he's like, "All right, well, how much do you train the physical side?" And I was like, "Yeah, 6 days a week. I'm busy. I do strength and conditioning, skill training, sparring." He's like, "All right, well, how much do you train the mental?" And I was like, "Ooh, like zero." So we just started working together, and that's what intrigued me. Of like, all right, maybe there's something else I can tap into here. And it's just really good, man. It's good. It's like therapy. It's very therapeutic to like talk things out, because as
Mm.
fighters, we go through so many emotions and feelings about a fight. Nerves and things that we picture, and things go wrong in training, and just how to deal with all of that. So it's been great, man, and I really recommend everyone do it. I think mental health is so important in general, but when you apply like literally life and death, sometimes this is a serious sport. So like you said, it's the hurt business, right? People are trying to hurt me, so I need to be able to compartmentalize all of that and handle that stuff so I can use it as fuel in the ring.
Mm. First and foremost, thank you for that promo. That's definitely gonna be cut, clipped, and, posted everywhere.
There you go.
Uh, but, you of course, it's all mostly physical and then the mental aspect. So what does a training on the mental side look like?
It really varies, and Dylan is so good at picking out what's most important for the individual. For I can only speak to myself, but when Dylan and I first started, it was a lot of goal setting. How to approach each training session the right way, and have a good attitude, so I can grow from every session. Because not every day is going to be a great day. I'm sure you don't wake up every day like in the best mood and the perfect state where you feel great. Your voice might be a little groggy, but how do you perform and do your job at the highest level? And as a combat athlete, once you sign on the dotted line, that date is set. So whether you're ready to do it or not, you got to go. So a lot of things change from week to week and from day to day. And I think that goal setting helps me prepare and stay focused for each session. Even when I'm not at my best, I'm able to pull things from those sessions and improve. And then it just kind of progresses from there onto, you know, mantras and things that I can say to myself to get myself ready and, you know, lock myself in. And, you know, I think the great thing about Dylan too is that he is also a martial artist. So he understands the fight game and he's able to tie it all together. And it's nice to talk to somebody who gets it, who's not necessarily there seeing you every day. You know, he's not my striking coach. He's not my head coach. So he has a completely unbiased view of what I'm doing and gives me some really great input to help me improve.
Yeah, man. I seen him down there with you guys in Miami this past time for Karate Combat. It's so awesome, man. I think he's a super intelligent dude. I've been following him for a
Mhm.
few weeks now, and there's no chance I ever not follow him now. So and also your Instagram is also super awesome for anybody who's trying to get some knowledge on the body. The owner of Turbo Sports Performance. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate that plug. Yeah, so I also have a doctorate in physical therapy. That's my real job. You know, it's like
Wow.
most people just know me as a combat athlete, but you know, I have a full-time job as a physical therapist and strength coach. You know, I've done the whole working in clinics, and now I decided I wanted to kind of marry my two passions and bring my knowledge as a physical therapist with my doctorate and my experience as a high-level combat athlete and put those together. You know, and like when I was coming up in the game, I always had injuries, as all of us do. And I just wish I had the knowledge that I have now. You know, if I would have had that then, you know, who knows where I would have been. So, you know, I just want to be able to provide that for other people. So really, I help almost exclusively martial artists all over the world, you know, whether it's getting rid of injuries that they have now or, you know, preventing injuries so they can stay on the mats, but also, you know, high level athletes, amateurs, professionals, you know, strength and conditioning that's a little more specific to their sport so that they can excel and be the best versions of themselves come fight night.
Mm. And is this something where you're based out of a single location and martial artists have to travel to you to do it, or is this something that you could do over the phone or Zoom or something online?
Yeah, awesome question. I'd say like 95% of my clientele are all remote. So I actually do everything through an app. So you can, if you and I were working together and, you know, if you're in striking distance and you want to come down and see me in Warwick, Rhode Island, in Cranston, Rhode Island, you're more than welcome to, and we can set up, you know, one-to-one sessions. But, you know, I have people that are international all over the country, you know, all over the world. And we have an app that syncs us together so I can program everything for you. We can do video calls, you know, Zoom evaluations, things like that. So I get a good feel for how you move, get a good baseline, and then from there we just progress and chug along, getting you better, faster, stronger, all that good stuff.
That's awesome. And where can people get connected with that? Is there a website? Is it an app that they download?
Yeah, so everything is honestly all through my Instagram. So if anyone has questions, the best way to reach me is just to send me a DM at Ross_Turbo_Levine. And then we go through the process from there. You know, I send you the links for everything. So we sync together on the app. And everything, you know, once you're in the program is all free. So, you know, once you get rolling with me, you know, we're good to go from there.
Nice. Well, there it is. If you're interested in that, and also if you maybe don't want to go that route, but are interested in some awesome content, still follow Ross. I highly recommend. But Ross, I want to go back a little bit to some of your early
Mhm.
fights. You mentioned the Glory one. We all know that viral head kick knockout, which was fucking sick, man. The dude had his guard up completely and still ate the kick, and it was all she wrote. Uh, but tell me about Glory. We all know Glory Kickboxing. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, Glory was cool, man. I mean, it was great. You know, at the time that I got looped into Glory, we kind of got to backpedal a little bit. So I only had 11 amateur fights, which is not a lot in the sport of kickboxing. You see, first of all, a lot of these pro kickboxers at the highest level, a lot of these guys have like 70 plus fights. Like they're just animals. And in Europe and Asia, there's just way more opportunity for combat sports, especially kickboxers and Muay Thai athletes than there is in the US. So to have only 11 amateur fights and then go pro, it's kind of unheard of. And then I only had two pro fights before getting into Glory. Now I have a great contact. Mr. Corey Schaefer is the head of the ISKA, and the Glory event was being run at the same weekend as the U.S. Open, which is arguably the biggest sport karate event in the United States. So, you know, Corey was running the ISKA, which sanctioned Glory Kickboxing in the U.S., and the ISKA also sanctions the U.S. Open. So, knowing that those two events were connected and knowing that, he had followed my career, been giving me advice the entire time. He basically asked me like, hey, listen, if you're ready, this is your opportunity. If you can make a splash here, they'll sign you for one fight, do your thing, and see where it takes you. So I jumped on that opportunity, even though, I probably wasn't, my coaches are like, yeah, you're ready, like go get it. But to be honest with you, I was like, man, I don't know if I belong here yet. I was fighting a guy, and my initial opponent, Thomas Dion, credit to him, he was like a five-time French national Sanda champion. Like, guy had much more experience than I did. And I went in there and took him out. So it was just kind of like confirmation, like, hey man, you belong here. You're solid. You're ready to rock. So it was a whirlwind of an experience, man. And then, of course, like the exposure I got from that knockout, being in Glory, and my Instagram went crazy. It was just nuts, dude. Stuff that I've never experienced before.
Mm, mm. Well, that first fight, I have a few questions about that one. How were you able to get over that? Where like it's your debut, it's your first time going out there against a guy who you just mentioned is a world champion in France. How were you able to jump that hurdle? Like,
I really didn't put too much pressure on that. The
mm,
pressure was really on me. Just honestly, the hardest part about that camp was getting in shape. It was relatively short notice. I think it was like 7 weeks notice, which it is short, but it also in that weight class. So when I fought in Glory, I was fighting at 170 pounds, welterweight, 169 pounds.
mm,
And at the time, I was walking around at like 210. I was a little out of shape, so I was a little heavier than that too. I won't tell everyone exactly how heavy I was, but I had to lose a lot of weight really fast. And, it was not the prettiest. And, I have the best nutritionist on the planet, and Trisha Cornell. And, it was really all about just, it's like, listen, let's just make weight. I know how good I am. I know I'm explosive. I know I'm dynamic. And if we can get in there and just let it rip, like these guys have never seen the stuff that I'm capable of doing. And, it's like I've fought a bunch of guys like him, but he's never fought someone like me.
mm.
So, the lead up to it was like, let's just make weight, and everything else is going to fall in place. And we did, everything did exactly that, just fall in place.
And then how did the Glory opportunity come about?
Well, yeah, after that, it was the buzz around me was pretty big. And, even the commentary was like, hey, if this guy's doing this already, he's 3-0, 3 knockouts, just fought on a guy with more than double his experience, the sky's the limit. So they offered me a contract, and, we gladly signed. So I was signed with Glory. I had another fight. So that was July 4th weekend, 2019. And then I had another fight in September that went to a decision. Tough fighter, Sean Choice from out in Colorado. Good dude. And then I was ready to fight another one in Belgium, and that was March of 2020. So, we were scheduled for me to go out there and fight a really tough guy in Amari Diedrich. A lot of people thought that probably, if I won that fight, that would have put me into the top 10 in the world rankings already. And then COVID. So
Mm,
that's what kind of slammed the door on my Glory career.
mm. And then how did the Karate Combat come about?
Yeah, so after months and months of waiting, Glory actually rebranded. They started doing a lot of things only in Europe, so they were putting on shows. And I was messaging the matchmaker like, "Hey, I'm ready. I'm training. Like, what's going on?" They're like, "Just be patient," because a lot of the U.S. personnel got released since they were only doing shows in Europe. So while we were waiting, Karate Combat came aboard, and I sent in an application just to kind of see what was going on, and see if they were offering opportunities, because it looked like they were doing some events. And they responded and said they would love to have me and wanted to sign me long term. So, we asked for our release with Glory because we weren't sure what the dynamic was going to be there. And we jumped ship, went to Karate Combat. And, shout out to Glory Kickboxing for being awesome and, understanding my desire to continue to be active. And because they didn't really know what they were going to do with me, they're like, listen, go do what you got to do. And if you want to come back, you come back. So yeah, it was awesome that they were able to release me, and Karate Combat jumped on the opportunity, and we've been riding that wave ever since.
It feels like a perfect home, does it not?
It really does, man. The skill set, the arena, it's just super cool, super unique, and yeah, I love the dynamic of it. I feel like it's kind of built for me,
Mm.
so I'm digging it.
Yeah, and it's like this new thing. I feel like I've only known about it for the past maybe year or so, where like
Mm.
Wonder Boy was promoting it, and then of course you got signed. So how am I not going to tune in? And it has a really interesting setup. The pit. I mean, the pit. What did you think of that? Like seeing it for the first time?
Yeah, so I mean, seeing it in video, like when you watch it on YouTube and things like that, does not even come close to doing it justice. So
Mm,
it looked cool, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. Like it was my first time fighting with the small gloves, the MMA gloves, and obviously the first time in an arena like that where it's completely unique. So there was a lot of learning curves happening in the moment. But what people don't notice is if you've never been to a live event, and certainly if you're not a fighter and haven't been in the pit, it's really tall. It's way taller than it looks. Like if you're standing on the outside of the pit on the ground, the pit comes up to like here.
mm,
So, and I'm like 6 feet, 5'11". So, you're looking at least like 4.5 feet tall, and the walls are really steep. They look like they're not that steep when the camera angles over the top. But if you end up with your back on the wall, it's steep enough where you can't just sit up. You have to put your hands down. But remember, you're a live target. You're not grounded. So people can throw, like you've seen me do spinning
mm.
hook kicks with people against the wall. So it is a terrible place to be. So, the feeling it out, like my first fight was just crazy of like figuring out what can you do, what can't you do. It's a very unique experience.
Did you know that? It's so funny you brought up that point about the wall being steep. Did you know that when you were throwing that kick that he had no way out of there basically?
Yeah, so that was my second fight in Karate Combat. My first fight is I fought somebody called his name was Andrei Grinovich from Belarus. Tough dude, just tall, lanky. And there were opportunities where he was on the pit wall, and I just, I didn't know. I was tentative. I was really hesitant because it was just so new. I didn't really know what I could get away with, and I wanted to make sure I won the fight. That was my most important thing. If something presented itself where I could, pull off a great knockout, awesome. But there was a point in that first fight where I landed a good head kick. He fell back against the wall, and I'm like, I don't know what I should do here. So let me back up, let him up. So that was my first like learning experience of, all right, now that I've taken away, I can go back and study. And, I watched a lot of other fights in Karate Combat. And I realized in between my first and second fight, like when someone's against that wall, it's kind of like a freebie,
Mm,
because even if I were to throw a technique and miss, I'm really not in a bad position and they still got to get up. So, in my second fight going in with Igor, I kind of told myself, like, listen, if I find myself where he's on the pit wall, I'm just going to throw something crazy and see what happens. And it panned out. I was able to throw that spinning hook kick and, it wasn't planned. It just kind of flowed naturally and it landed.
yeah. A classic highlight reel type land. Uh Now I know you've seen a bunch of different and been to a bunch of different combat sport events, and you touched upon this a few minutes ago. But where does karate combat compare to its competitors, the other forms of combat?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I think Karate Combat is really going to explode in this next year or so. The more people get involved and even just watch it, see it, go to do it live, go to a live event. The big difference for me, and like it was really cool this last event because I got to obviously fight in the pit, which I love, and then I was able to go and support Rob at the UFC event. And people always talk about how the downside to going to a UFC event live is the cage and how the cage blocks everything. And sometimes you end up looking at the screen and it's a better view from home. But I'd never been to a UFC event. So I was like, I don't think all that's real because I love fights. So I just want to go and I want to be there and experience it. But it was true, it was really honestly, it was true. So, we got there and there were so many times where I found myself looking up at the Megatron. I'm like, come on, stupid. Like the fight's happening right here. Like but it's true. It's a better view on the screen.
Mhm.
Karate Combat's not like that. Whether you have seats in the stands, you can literally see directly into the pit. And if you have a VIP ticket, you're standing literally next to the pit. You can put your arms on the pit like this and you're looking right into it. So there's no distractions. There's really nothing you can't see. So from a viewer's perspective, it really can't be beat.
Mm. Where do you see excuse me, where do you see karate combat in 5 years from now?
I mean, I think it's going to overtake a lot of the promotions you see now, especially that they have so many things that I would not even do it justice trying to explain because I don't understand all of it. But with they're working very heavily with Web3, with like Hedera, the crypto circuit.
Mm,
Um, Karate Combat is launching their DAO, so you can get Karate Combat coins, karate tokens, and then the fans are able to, number one, you can like vote on things that are going on. So you can vote on matchups, you can vote on rule changes, you can vote on who comes into the league. So like fans are going to be in a lot of control of some major decisions that happen. But then fans can also wager their tokens on fighters. So let's say I have a matchup, in the next card, fans can vote on me, and it also affects my bonus. So if a lot of fans vote on me to win the fight, and I do, the more people that voted on me, that goes into a bonus where I can get more money basically
Nice.
for my fight, and then the fans get more tokens. Now, if they lose, they don't lose any of their tokens. So it's called Up Only Gaming. It's pretty sick. They're
Mm.
coming up with some really new wave stuff. And again, it's just like you see the big promotions, UFC, Bellator, One, PFL, they all go this way. Karate Combat goes that way. And I think that's what makes it unique. And you're going to see a lot of people kind of jumping on board.
Mm. That sounds super, super different. I don't think I've ever heard any promotion even remotely talk about something like that. Now, is this app, the coins, is that a cost to the user, or is that just you sign up, here are certain coins that you can start to wager and play with?
Yeah, so right now they're doing well, they have a limited edition airdrop. So if you go on like karate.com, you can sign up for the airdrop and get free coins allocated to you. I'm not sure how it's going to work after those airdrops are done. I know there's going to be like a finite number of tokens, and then they're going to be allotted and people can work them around that way. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to be purchased. Yeah, see, that's like the stuff I'm not really sure of. But what I will say is there's tons of stuff like people who are on the Twitter space. If you follow Karate Combat, follow Hedera, follow Adam Kovacs, the president, there's a lot of information that you could go down the rabbit hole and really like dig into it. And if you're into that like crypto type of space and want to get involved, it's really easy to follow, and you just got to kind of study up on it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's they're changing the game, it sounds like, which
Big
we
time.
we need it, man. MMA's been kind of standstill. It's all the same stuff. Combat in general, it's all the same shit. It's nice to, throw something else out there in the world of crypto and digital
Yeah,
currency.
and you know what? It's like all that's really cool, but even if you're not involved with that, it's just so refreshing to see a new wave of athletes. Like the skill set is different. There's no grappling. You still get the dynamic, fun, like crazy throws and sweeps and takedowns, but it's only 5 seconds of ground and pound, then you're up. So like the environment is sick. The digitization of everything is crazy, and like just a cool skill set that highlights these like explosive viral knockouts. And if you watch a highlight video of Karate Combat knockouts, it's nuts. Like it's some
Yeah,
of the best stuff you see anywhere.
undoubtedly. And a few things that I thought was fascinating other than those things about Karate Combat is at the moment, are all their events free on YouTube?
Yeah, everything is free. So if you're not watching live, but honestly, even live, like tickets to the last event were like $50. Like you can't get. I'm not even going to tell you what the UFC tickets cost. But yeah, it's like people know. People were complaining about how the nosebleeds were crazy money for UFC, and like, listen, do they deserve to be that expensive? Sure. Like you're getting high quality stuff, but yeah, I mean, you're also getting high quality stuff with Karate Combat, and when Alex Pereira shows up to Karate Combat, and he wasn't paid to be there 5 days before his title fight, there's a reason for that. This stuff is legit. And, it's just one of those things where it doesn't cost you anything to go watch. You can go watch it on YouTube, karate.com. Like you have access to it all the time.
Mm. I heard you talk about once, that they do bonuses for every finish.
Mm.
Is that true? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, so the way my contract is built, I get my flat fee for competing, like my show money,
Right.
and then the bonuses are tiered. So based on how I win, the fighters are incentivized to knock people out. So I get a bonus based on if I win by decision. I get more for a TKO and even more for a knockout. So yeah, the tiers of bonuses are all based on how I perform. So there's big incentive. Not that there's ever been incentive not to knock people out, but sometimes in the UFC, yeah, you get like the 50K bonus and stuff like that. But this is like built into my contract. So you go to the UFC and it's like the most important thing is you got to win, right? And then if you get a bonus, great. But a lot of people aren't hunting those bonuses. They're hunting the wins so they can progress up the rankings. Karate Combat is built on this bonus structure, and that's why
Mm,
every single fight is like crazy action. So, everyone's trying to get that KO bonus.
mm. You talked about Alex Pereira a few minutes ago, and watching all the media that they were putting up during the fight week, I seen you in there with some legends. Have you ever had any moments where it's like, "Holy shit, that's this person?"
Yeah, I try not to get too starstruck on that, but it is really cool. I've been very fortunate to be exposed to a lot of great martial artists in my career. With Karate Combat alone, I've had the chance to work out with Lyoto Machida, which was nuts. Wonder Boy, who's amazing, super cool guy. With Boss Rutan on this last one. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's just like these people. The coolest part about all of it is exactly how you think they are. That's exactly how they are. They're just real people, and like it's just awesome. I was actually really bummed out. I had no idea that Pereira was at the event.
Mhm.
And it's like I actually walked right past him after I, had the knockout. He was standing right behind the president, but I was so like locked into what I was doing. But it's like you got the left hook master,
Right.
and at the event, I knocked this guy out a left hook, and I didn't even like dap him up or anything. I felt like such an idiot. But yeah, man, it was super cool. I had another experience with Alex at one of my Glory fights, just like seeing him in the elevator and just like how are we in the same weight class? It doesn't even make sense. But yeah, wild, man.
Oh, man, what a scene in Miami that was. And then you
Yeah.
mentioned the Rob fight the next weekend. How was,
Mhm.
the full UFC experience for you?
It was dope. That was my first event at first live event. Obviously, I've seen plenty of the UFC cards, but I was able to go down there with my wife. Um, it was awesome, man. We got to hang out with the team, and support Rob doing his thing. Those guys came down to my event as well. We had a whole squad, man. There was
Yeah.
like 12 to 15 people from the cartel. Nick Fiore came down, and Tom Pags and Tyson, Rob, Calvin, like Connor Matthew, like everybody was there. And so it was so loud for me. So the least I could do is show my love and get back there and support Rob. So it was great to be there live for that. I've never got to see Rob fight live, which is kind of crazy. Even like when he fought at like CES, some of these local promotions, I never saw him fight there. So I was super happy to be there, and even happier for him to get that big result. We got to go in the back and see him afterwards and just hug it out, and just so happy for each other.
What a dope moment. I seen all the pics that everybody was posting and
Yeah.
and just everything that all the guys you mentioned were posting all week, man. It was all great content, fun to see, and
Hmm.
2 awesome performances on back-to-back weekends.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely how it goes, man. We just keep the ball rolling one after another, so it's always exciting.
This weekend, UFC, 288, will you be, tuned in?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. This is a card that's not really possible to miss.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think of, the one at the top, the Aljo and, Henry Cejudo?
It's going to be interesting, man. I mean, Henry's been out the game for a while, but you can never really count him out. I think Henry's going to get it done. Or excuse me, I think Aljo's going to get it done.
Mm,
I would, if I were a betting man, I'd put my money on him. His striking. I think if he can stay long and then neutralize some of those grappling exchanges with his jiu-jitsu. I mean, it'll be really really interesting. But yeah, I'm rooting for Aljo. He's a New Yorker, but you just can't count him out, man. Henry's a beast. He's triple C.
Triple C for a reason, but 3 years out, man,
It's a long time.
that's a real thing, and I mean, John
Yeah.
Jones, he did it a few, he came back and it was successful for him, but even he said he felt goofy on his
Yeah.
feet.
But also it's different. Like
Mm,
like John Jones is a different animal, and that division is different. You know, yeah, and like his skill set matched up really well with Cyril Gahn, and his skill set matches up against everyone in the heavyweight division. I think the biggest threat is going to be Pavlovich for him because
mm.
he's a younger guy, he's strong, he's big, he doesn't care, and he's got nothing to lose. Where these guys are all fighting for their legacy and this and that, but you go back into that division, it's a shark tank, man. It's not an easy division.
Yeah, and they weigh like 250 plus pounds. It
Right.
makes it all that much tougher. But this weekend's co-main is a super fun one as well. Bilal Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns. What's your take on
Hmm.
that one?
Yeah, man, I love Gilbert Burns in this matchup. I feel like he's been like right there this entire time. But I do love Bilal too. He's a tough dude. He also, like, I feel like hasn't really gotten the credit he deserves, in his career. So it's such a tough fight. I think Gilbert can neutralize, that skill. And, as long as he's able to open up his striking, I think that's where we're going to see him shine. So I think Gilbert edges this one out. He looked so good against Masvidal too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm rooting for Gilbert, man. They're both great fighters. I like them both, but I'd like to see Gilbert make that last run to the title.
Mm. And the other side of that is Gilbert, he's going back to back to back here. This is like 3 fights in what, 2
Yeah,
months? That's
yeah.
could this one bite him in the ass? That's the kind of the question that I'm wondering.
But he hasn't really taken a ton of damage.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
if you're able to get back in the gym and, like, the guys that he's got in his training camp are just solid. So, I think he's going to be fine. I think he's smart. He wouldn't take a fight like this, knowing the style of fight it's going to be. Bilal's going to try and be all over him from bell to bell. And, I think he's very well prepared. And, we obviously know he's got the gas tank. So, yeah, I'm excited. I also think of it in this sense too, like, I would rather see. I think it's a better matchup seeing Gilbert and Leon than seeing Bilal and Leon. I think that
Mm,
style of fight is going to be way more exciting. So, I think Bilal will have his time as long as he continues on the trend that he's been. I think he'll reach that point where he can fight for the title. But I think right now it's Gilbert's time.
mm. Beautifully said. And now, some lighter questions on the funner side here.
Mm.
What's your dream fight? It could be past, present.
Yeah, I mean, a dream fight that I've always mentioned when I was fighting for Glory, the dream fight with Cedric Doumbé. That
Mm,
is not going to happen
mm,
anymore. Me making 170 pounds ain't happening. But that would have been a dream fight. Man, right now it's hard to say. Sometimes I was talking to my wife about this too, and, like, I get a little butthurt about, like, not getting into MMA earlier because I feel like right now in the middleweight division you've got all these great strikers. If I could freaking fight Izzy, oh my God, first of all, I'd love to train with the guy, but that would be a dream fight. So yeah, I don't know, and that's with all due respect. Like, I love these guys; I think they're phenomenal. But right now you got a lot of these guys that are leaving other promotions. I think Luke Rockhold would be a sick fight.
mm,
I know he just lost, at the bare knuckle with Mike Perry, but he's a dynamic guy, and you take away his legs, and maybe he wasn't quite the same, but you put him in the pit. You got somebody like that who's big, tall, strong, like, good dynamic kicker. I think he'd be great in Karate Combat. I'd love to take that challenge. So yeah, Luke Rockhold would be a sick fight. Hector Lombard, there's like little chirps that he might jump into Karate
mm.
Combat. I'd love that. Yeah, man, I'm up for anything.
Luke Rockhold would be a sick fight, man. That's
Be a
an
sick fight.
awesome call out. And a
Yeah.
guy who has awesome kicks. And I thought the
Hmm.
BKFC was taking away his best weapons, like you said, but
Yeah.
Karate Combat might be a good home for him.
Never know, man. I think it'd be good. I think it'd be good to see.
Now you said you beat me to my next question about fighters you want to train with. Is he the answer?
Man, yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, I've been following Izzy even before he was in Glory. Like, back when he was doing the King of the Ring stuff. Like, I've always been a fan of him and that team. The city kickboxing team over in New Zealand. If I had a chance to go anywhere for like a month to go train, I'd bypass the Thailand camps and go straight to city kickboxing. I got a lot of love for that team, man. They do a great job. Obviously, like, you look head to toe on that roster, and it's a room full of killers. And feel like when you have someone who's a champion, who every single fight seems to be getting better, like, that's pretty crazy, man. You got someone who's got over 100 fights, and Izzy gets better and better and better and more refined. Like, that comes from the coaching. Like, yeah, that obviously Izzy's a special talent, but there's got to be something in the sauce, man. There's a secret sauce there, and it has to be the coaching. So I would love to be exposed to stuff like that. I love the mental coaches, the cerebral coaches. I've been surrounded by amazing coaches my whole life. I grew up with Jody Tension in New York City, my sport karate coach, and then, moving to Rhode Island and working with Coach Andrew Cornell and Jake Manini. I'm exposed to Joseph Valtellini, Bazooka Joe, former Glory World Champion, Randy Stanky, coach of the MMA Lab. Like, I have all these guys that are at my disposal, and the more I can add to that, just I'll be unstoppable.
If you had to fight in one location for the rest of your career, where would that be?
MSG.
Mm,
MSG.
mm,
That's home, man. That's
mm.
home. I'm a Brooklyn boy. I grew up in New York City. Um, yeah, if there's one that I like, oh, I really want to check off the list, it has to be MSG. You know,
Mm.
and there's obviously like so many reasons why any fighter would want to fight in MSG, but for me to go home, like I've in my entire career, let me see. I think I've had two full contact fights in New York, and they were both amateur. Yeah, I think it's only been two.
Mm.
So like for me to go home and have like potentially a title fight at MSG, it's really funny. I've never told anybody this, so I'm debuting this. I was driving with my wife. We were going down to visit my brother in New York, and we were just goofing on like, what would be a sick walkout song, this and that. And I put on New York State of Mind, not the Nas version, the original version, like so I put on New York State of Mind and it was playing. She's like, what would you do this? I'm like, if I ever fight at MSG,
Oh
I,
man.
I have to. And like we both like teared up, and it
Oh
was like,
man.
man, just visualizing that, I was like, that would be so special. And like having all my family there, my friends there, like going back home, main event, like you could see it, right? I feel like I could smell it, I could taste it. So
Mm.
I'm hoping that happens. Karate Combat, let's do it. MSG.
I hope Karate Combat is listening and they heard you say that. I'm
Mm,
definitely gonna clip that part up. They're definitely gonna see it because we gotta
yeah.
make that happen. Are they a promotion that want to travel? Do they want to go places?
Yes, 100%. They've actually they did a fight pre-COVID. They did an event. It was a closed off event, very private event in the observatory of the World Trade Center.
Holy
Like
shit.
these, yeah, exactly. Go back and YouTube Karate Combat One World, and
Oh,
it was
man.
legitimate. And that is not CGI. That was legitimately they set up the pit in the observatory. I don't know how the hell they pulled that off, but I would love for them to do that again. I would do that too. But yeah, man, like they're traveling. They did their three events in Orlando. They did these three
Mm.
in Miami. I believe they're going to go back overseas this year. They got a lot of stuff planned out. They're talking about Vegas, they're talking about New York potentially. So, we'll see. But yeah, Karate Combat's blowing up, man. It's going, and I'm, full steam ahead. I'm just happy to be on board.
Hell yeah. One walkout song.
Mm. I honestly, man, I don't. I always change my walkout song. I've never used the same walkout song twice, so I really can't answer that question. Because it's my mood changes.
Mm.
My mood changes all the time, and it's usually something that has to do with the place that I'm fighting because I want to play to the crowd too. Like it has to. It's something that has to just fit perfectly with my state of mind at that time and the crowd and like putting everything together. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's always different,
Mm.
random. If I have to say, question mark.
To be determined.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
this has been a great time, brother. I really appreciate the time here. I want to
Same.
close out with your 2023 goals.
Man, 2023 goals. As a competitor, I would love to, I'd love to fight at least two more times, potentially for the 205 title at Karate Combat. I'd love to be a
Champ.
two division champion. I would love that. Defend or capture a third title in the middleweight division as well would be great. Business wise, I want to continue to just expand and provide the highest quality of care, possible. I'd love to become a dad. That's something that we're working on as well. So yeah, man, I got a lot of big goals, big dreams, big aspirations, and nothing but hard work goes into all of them.
Amen. Well, I'm looking forward to see all that come to fruition and seeing hopefully a baby Levine running around the house
Yeah, yeah.
soon enough, man. Good luck for the rest of the year, and I can't wait
Thank
to
you.
talk again soon.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the time. Anytime someone gives me the platform to talk and have great questions like that, it's always fun, man. So I appreciate you, and looking forward to being back soon.
Hell yeah, anytime, man.